Welcome to the first ever season of We're Here and We Matter, the podcast that talks about women with bleeding disorders.
Because we're here
and we matter.
This season, we're talking all about women with hemophilia.
That's right, women with hemophilia. Because we exist and we need to be listened to, diagnosed, and actually treated. This, of course, is true for all people living with a bleeding disorder, but statistics show it's much harder for people with uteruses. I'm Rachel, and I have von Willebrand's disease. You can look at our past content and follow me and my sister. Ahem. My sister. That's your cue.
Hi.
If you're looking at this girl next to me like, who is she?
I'm Jess. I met Rachel when we did our school's play, Romeo and Juliet. It's by Shakespeare.
Jess was Juliet.
And Rachel made me look like stunning.
I did the costumes. We were already friends, but then we ran into each other at the Hemophilia Treatment Center while I was volunteering.
That's when we became best friends. Because...
You got this.
I was just diagnosed with mild hemophilia. It's been a long journey with my diagnosis, but...
But you got a diagnosis, which is huge. And now we're about to talk to a bunch of awesome people all about hemophilia.
Without further ado, Dr. Moyer.
Liam, you're supposed to be off camera.
I knew I should have been working the camera. Sorry, I got excited.
Today, we have the super lovely Genevieve Moyer, an assistant professor in the field of hematology.
Hey, Jess and Rachel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today.
We can't wait. Let's dive in.
Historically, we've always thought that biological males are the ones that have the most severe bleeding disorder symptoms, and that maybe girls who are carriers of hemophilia aren't affected at all.
I've heard it before.
We know that that couldn't be farther from the truth now. In fact, biological females, because they have this monthly period, have actually more symptoms when they have a mild bleeding disorder than a lot of males who have mild bleeding disorders. So it's really important that as a girl with a bleeding disorder, you know that you can have symptoms too. These symptoms can be managed in a way that you don't have to deal with heavy periods or chronic pain. It's really important that you find a doctor that knows about hemophilia and knows that girls can be affected as well.
If that's not normal, what is normal?
That is such an important question because it's something that we don't often talk enough about. The people that we may talk about this with is sometimes our families, and in bleeding disorders tend to run in families. So if you're talking to your mom and your sister about what a normal period is, what's normal for them may not actually truly be normal or at least ideal.
That's what happened to me. I got my period and it was crazy intense. But when I talked to my mom about it, she was just like,
yeah, honey, periods in our family are intense. That's what my mom always said.
It's like a bubble. In your own family, it's normal. But outside of that, it really isn't normal.
But what is normal?
Periods should last no more than 7 days, and you should not be having to change whether it's a tampon, a pad, or a menstrual cup any more than every 1 to 2 hours. Blood clots, a little bit of blood clots with your periods can be normal, but these should be small and infrequent. And there should never be a time where you're having to, change your clothes in the middle of the day or change your bed sheets at night because you're bleeding, through your clothing and into the bed sheets.
So much blood, so much laundry.
So if at any time your period is so heavy that it's keeping you home from school or keeping you from being able to go out and do the things that you want with your friends or want to do recreationally, it shouldn't be keeping you home from dance or from other sports that you want to play.
I don't want my period telling me what to do.
Wait a sec. When should girls start seeing a gynecologist?
For people who have a bleeding disorder, I think there's a lot of advantage to talking to a gynecologist even before your very first period. And that's because that first period may be no big deal at all, but if it is a little bit excessive, that can be kind of scary, especially if it's the very first time it's ever happening. So having a plan in place and knowing exactly what you're going to do if you get into that situation where your very first period is quite heavy can take a lot of the stress and a lot of the fear away. And just getting those answers and knowing what to expect can make that transition in life a lot easier.
Mine was totally scary. I wish I would have had a plan instead of just blood. Rachel!
It's not a bad word.
Blood, 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 blood. Blood, 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 blood.
Sing it, Liam. Okay, class, back on track. Why is it important to have a gynecologist who knows about your bleeding disorder?
So the way that you would treat heavy periods in someone who does not have a bleeding disorder is very different in someone who does. Some of the medications that are used to control periods and make them more regular or lighter may not be suitable for someone with a bleeding disorder because they may actually make things worse before they make them better.
It can be scary to say something to your doctor.
Totes. And not saying something can make your life so much harder. Hey, so we're working on building a worksheet for girls to take to their doctors. What should be on it?
Keeping track of when your periods happen, how long they last, how many times a day you're having to change your tampon, your pad, your menstrual cup, period underwear, whatever it is that you decide to use, and the number of days that you're missing school or having terrible cramps.
Anything else?
It's also sometimes really nice too ahead of time to ask other family members what kind of bleeding symptoms they've had.
My mom bleeds sometimes, but she forgets about it once we're in the doctor's office.
Writing down when it happens is a great idea.
It's really important that doctors know, and it may be that you have to tell them that bleeding disorders are rare and they can exist even when all of the testing looks normal. So if you feel that you have a bleeding disorder based on your symptoms or because of your family history, it doesn't matter what the laboratory tests are showing with your primary care doctor. If you're still having symptoms, especially if they're negatively impacting your life, it's really important that you keep working and keep asking until you can speak to a bleeding disorder specialist who will be able to get to the bottom of what's going on. Bleeding disorders, especially in young girls, can have really major negative impacts on quality of life, friendships, relationships, school, work, and these are things that don't have to be the case. So there are ways of making things better. It's really important that we continue to work with our doctors until we have our symptoms adequately treated so that we can have the best possible quality of life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moyer.
Thanks so much for tuning into our very first episode. This is only the beginning.
This is only the beginning.
Liam!